I understand that, actors should be able to play other roles, but, and you can't make a generalized statement about anything. It has to be in context.
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. played a black man. Robert Downey Jr. went on screen and was in blackface. And any other time, Negro, Hollywood would not be here. We would have burned that motherfucker down.
Yeah.
Now, let's go ahead and move on to some other controversies out there, Martin. People are saying, why don't you, as Danielle, you said, why don't you let this girl live? Why y'all don't let this girl do nothing? Every time Scarlett Johansson get a role, some group out there protesting. Pardon me. Excuse me, madam. I believe that belongs to me.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's not Russians complaining about her being the Black Widow.
Oh, Martin, I'm surprised they're not real spiders mad at her about being a Black Widow. When is our time? That's not us. That's not representation. What are y'all talking about? Well, we are talking about Scarlett Johansson she was supposed to be playing a transgender person in a movie called Rub Tug. Martin's very familiar with that, as I am with myself. In fact, I feel like, hey, I jack off a lot. How come I ain't being represented here? Chronic masturbators of the world. I should be in that role. No, this is a movie.
That's not what that means.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I think in a way, maybe because
in a way,
this was a movie about a transgender person back in the 70s who actually ran a prostitution ring.
Right.
And they were going to get, and I'm looking at this on NPR.org, but you can see this in a lot of places. This has made a lot of news lately. They say here that at one point where she was going to star in this film based on the true story of a transgender man who ran a ring of prostitution fronts, she has dropped out. And this article right here, she gives a quote saying why she had second thoughts about this and pulled away. In light of recent ethical questions raised surrounding my casting as Dante Tex Gill, I have decided to respectfully withdraw my participation in the project. Our cultural understanding of transgender people continues to advance, and I've learned a lot from the community since making my first statement about my casting and realized it was insensitive. And that's coming from her. So maybe somebody wants you to think. I want to tell you something, man. Maybe she has some say-so right there, but I get the feeling that was written by her publicist. The reason why I think this is because I think truly while she does feel like, okay, I thought about this, at this point, she probably just feels like, you know what, I'm just tired of y'all fucking with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It would be a point of, look, either she did get a clearer understanding of the issue, or she was like, what's the fucking point? I'm putting my heart and soul in this and have it protested against. Why am I doing this?
Scarlett Johansson. You know what I'm gonna be in my next movie? Scarlett Johansson.
Right. That's who you qualify to play.
And even there's gonna be some Scarlett Johansson looking like, why that should have been mine.
Give somebody else a chance.
Yeah. The fake Scarlett Johanssons of the world. What about us? Jesus, this woman's insensitive. I get the feeling that this girl right here, she's just like, I'm just tired of you. Look, y'all whoop my ass so much.
On Ghost in the Shell.
On Ghost in the Shell. I did this and y'all were up my ass about this so much. And at this point, I do not want to go through that again. I'm sorry. All right. And look, let's go ahead and get into it with that discussion on how we feel about it. Martin, I want to know how you feel about it. Now, first of all, we should talk about how you felt about Ghost in the Shell. My opinion of it was that, yes, did Asian people have a right to complain about this overall? And I gave the movie a chance before I really made any kind of real argument about it. I said that, with watching the movie, there is so much about the Japanese culture that is put up into the forefront. Japanese culture is almost a character in itself. They put everything on the front, except Japanese people. Now, there was some, but they were in the back.
Right.
But if you look at it, from the beginning of this trailer, They even had Japanese androids and robots and and Japanese type architecture and structures, and I thought like, okay, yeah, you're going to that whole point, which is not a well argued point anymore. That, well, we had to sell this with stars that people recognize, and and unfortunately white stars sell better than Asians, and it's like, all right, in this day that we just got through arguing about, in the digital age where really special effects, action, explosions, CG, all that kind of stuff sells more and than probably some people. And on top of that, Fast and Furious franchise has also come in and debunked that.
Sure.
It's like people say, you don't really have an argument then. Now, Martin, I don't know if you feel different or not. If you do, that's cool. I just want to hear what you have to say.
Well, I only feel different in as much as it's not simply white stars sell more than Asian stars. It's Scarlett Johansson herself sells. I mean, there's only a few actors and actresses who are able to sell a movie just like they themselves. There's plenty of people who are famous, but you got people like Kevin Hart and The Rock and Denzel Washington and her, whose names can be on a movie and people go to it. And she sells a lot of tickets internationally. Like here we know her as like, oh yeah, it's ScarJo. Internationally, she's huge. Yeah,
and I get your point. But even some of your biggest stars are being outsold by the property. And that's why I was looking at here and I was like, something, this is a property that is, and as this is directed towards a big niche of people who are familiar with this. It's based on an anime, which, granted, Scarlett Johansson does look like that character. I'm not gonna lie, but there's a lot of Asian people out there could use the word, So
yeah, but I mean, they in Asia there is their own film industry. I mean, you're thinking Asian Americans who could use the word.
I am.
Yeah. And you can't really name any who are even half as big as she is.
I know, but something. That's where I have to say, like, it has to start somewhere.
No. That's what I'm coming around to. I mean, I'm looking at this other thing, but ultimately, it's like, well, how is this door ever going to get open as long as you stick with that mentality?
Yeah. Because I agree with a lot of your points too, but we have to break that cycle somewhere.
But you could also look at it as, I mean, this property Ghost in the Shell. Sure, if you like anime or manga, it's big to you. If you're into geek culture, then that's fine. But most of the time you can't sell a movie just on that. And if you want to open it up to people who don't know anything about it, you stick a very familiar face in it, like hers.
Yeah. And I do understand where you're coming from. I definitely do, because those are excellent points that you made.
And I went in thinking about all those things. Now, when the movie plays out and it gets to the big reveal at the end, I was like, oh, well, fuck you.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm sorry. Forget everything I said before.
Look, the whole thing is that, and that's what really sold me, because like I said, I see a lot of your points, but big spoiler right here. The thing is that, the big M. Night Shyamalan twist is like, she was Asian all along. I'm like, and I can see Asian people like, well, fuck you, man, shit. It's but I think that whether you see the marketing plan or the business plan behind it, there is a point now to where, now that transgender people are looking at this and saying, well, I feel kind of slighted. How do you feel about that?
Well, I guess I would say I was of a different mind until I read a lot more about it. And at first it did seem like, it's like, okay, more outrage culture. We're at a point where nobody can play someone who they aren't. I mean, the goal of acting is to become someone different than who you are. And nobody said anything when they were ready to give Eddie Redmayne an Oscar for doing the same thing. Yeah. And all these people prior to that, they've been talking about Jared Leto and the
Dallas
Buyers Club and so many others. And suddenly it falls on her, and everybody was pissed off at her. I was like, look, she's an actress trying to work, especially an actress who's pretty, who's part of her trade is being sexy. There's a time limit on that. So she's got to get in as much as she can.
You make it sound like she's gonna be playing a mom tomorrow, which probably unfortunately is something.
She is of the age to play mom. She has just been genetically gifted to where she's been able to avoid that for now. Yeah. But eventually that will happen. And so it's just like, man, y'all are so hyper focused on her, and it's just a role. And then if she quits, the whole movie could go away. You never get to tell the story.
Yeah.
But then the more I started reading and thinking about it, it was like, well, okay. Before it was like, well, okay, fine, take her out. Who is this this trans actor or actress who's going to take this role. But it's like, you know what? As long as you think like that, they'll never be somebody.
Yeah,
it does need to open up, because they there could be somebody who'd be perfect for this. And then I started reading about this actual person, Dante Gill, Tex, and reading about how she was going to play the role, because her and Tobey Maguire are producers on it, and it's the same director from Ghost in the Shell. And their take on it was going to be to make that character a butch lesbian rather than a trans man. And you read about that guy, and he was all about his identity. As much as the papers kept wanting to refer to him as female, he was all about being a man, married, being a pimp. The story's fascinating. And so ultimately I was like, you know what? Had this gone through, it would have been kind of a travesty.
Yeah,
it would have not done a service to this.
And that's
story.
And see, that's my point, man. I understand that actors should be able to play other roles, but and you can't make a generalized statement about anything. It has to be in context.
Yeah,
Robert Downey Jr. played a black man. Robert Downey Jr. went on screen and was in blackface. And any other time, Negro, Hollywood would not be here. We would have burned that motherfucker down.
Yeah.
But we went up there with our torches. It was like, oh shit, this is funny.
Yeah. He's hilarious.
He's hilarious.
Especially to reveal that he's a white guy who's trying to be black for this role.
It was a satire on that, on people who are playing roles outside of their race, or gender, whatever, and it was funny and it was smart. I'm telling you, man, a lot of people they don't give Tropic Thunder credit for being kind of smart and it's satire, but it is, and it's so smart that Martin we put the gasoline down and said, you know what, we ain't gonna burn it down today. You get a pass on blackface.
Right. Get this man a black card.
Yeah. Some people even thought that we said this before. Some people love, like my mama would be there, like, who was that black man that played that movie? I knew it was white, man. He was funny. I ain't never seen him again. People writing articles. What happened to the black guy in Tropic Thunder?
They never let him work again after that.
Never worked again. But you mentioned like the Danish girl. Like I said, people can play other roles in context. I think something like the Danish girl, which I enjoyed very much. That's with Eddie Redmayne. I think this movie came out at a time when before transgender voices were really heard.
Yeah, because what I've been reading is they were complaining about it, just nobody was hearing it.
No, because that's the thing, man. You have these groups which have not been heard from at all. We have these new voices that are coming up right now. We're living at a time where society is still trying to understand transgender people. Transgender people are trying to be understood and fight for their rights. They're actually coming out now more and more, and not being worried about being exposed or revealing themselves.
Right.
That's why it's important to recognize that, because when we don't understand a certain group of people, we look at them as complainers.
Right.
We don't look at them as people who have rights or a voice or whatever. And I think that's what's taken so long, because people have shut them up immediately.
Sure, but there's also, we're in the throes of outrage culture. So everybody's so, at a 10 mad about the smallest things. Yeah. And it presents a crying wolf kind of mentality. Not crying wolf. More like Chicken Little, where the sky's falling for everybody. So eventually you start to just tune it out.
But I think that's where people really have to stop and say, am I generalizing? Do I just tell these people to shut up, or do I actually listen? People don't listen a lot either, and I think that's what was happening here. Is that you had something like the Danish girl. A lot of people just they didn't say anything at the time. People were just kind of being shut down, or they were scared to say something. Now that's not possible anymore. I think the transgender community, in the case of that movie, Tug and Jerk or whatever, what is it?
Rub and Tug.
Rub and Tug. And even in the case of the Danish girl, there was a right to say something. Because when you put a transgender subject as front and center. Now, not playing a side character like Jared Leto was in Dallas Buyers Club. They are the subject matter. That's when people have to say, all right, hold on, wait a minute. This is our story, and you're taking it. And that's changing it right now. You know, we saw that woman, transgender woman, Daniela Vega.
Yeah.
In A Fantastic Woman. That movie's that movie, along with this actress now, they've broken ground. You know, she was the first transgender person to present an award at the Academy Awards. So now, you know, that definitely has opened the door for that. Point is that I believe that down the line, this is not going to stop. This is not going to be something that, and you will have some people who might be Chicken Little in this, as you say, but you're going to start hearing more voices from people who just have not had that voice before, and we're going to have to take those. We have to take those situations, case by case.
Sure.
So
sure. It's just why I get upset when people go in on something that's small. I'm like, man, save that for things that are important.
Big, yeah. So to sum it up, I think that transgender people did have a right to complain about this. It's not even a complaint; it's an observation. Hey, what the fuck? You know, come on. This is our story, and I'm glad that she actually pulled back on this before it got out of hand. You know, because as you say, Martin, that knowing the whole story, it's like, yeah, that was kind of insensitive in a way. That was messed up.
Yeah.
So, like I said, now.
And, I'm sure if I was putting a project together and thought I was doing something good and they had people complaining, I'm like, what are y'all complaining about? It's natural to be defensive until somebody can really sit you down and walk you through it.
Yeah.
And then you might be like, oh, wow. Now I see it this way. I'm sorry.
And all you Scarlett Johansson impersonators out there, I understand your pain. The next time she's in a movie and you get mad, I get it. What about your feelings? That's it.